moving into a new moon. You know the deal. And again, I'm always asking you guys, go on the site, lots of new stuff happen. I had so many free courses. I was trying to find some new things of value to give to you guys, and I realized there's so many things. So I'm repurposing some old stuff, but I put it all in to a new video on demand platform for you guys. So if you want to just go up, sign up for free, you can get all the free content. So go to theyamasystem.com and click on courses. You'll see free content because there's so much stuff. What I suggest is take the self-care, because this is a time for caring for yourself. And the other one that I would also suggest is one of our first things ever. I talked to one of my longtime students, Zach, on being prepared. He's a FEMA guy. He's all about disaster preparedness. And we just have a talk. It's like a podcast on things to look out for when you're preparing for, whether you're putting together an earthquake kit, a bug out bag, or just preparing for a power outage. And so it's all these different levels of understanding how to stay prepared. There's more self-care coming. The summer release keeps flying ahead, and then I'm taking off. I'm doing a really cool short film. I'm editing a cool short film, my first one, and then I'm also about to do a really monstrous project on emotional intelligence, and finally collaborating with some powerhouses. So this is a big month, but it's also a relaxing month. So let's call Scott and see what's going on. Again, go on the site, theyamasystem.com. You can get 14 days free as a premium member, get all of my courses. Or you can buy the new Swan set, which is one of the most complete and one of my go-to desert island training practices. And I just released that. So let's call Scott. I'm a little dark because it's my heart.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm depressed right now.
I'm sensitive. Yeah, it's like, okay.
Things are dark right now.
Yeah, you can be sensitive and not be a sponge. All right.
Yes.
Welcome. Let's start at the top. It's astrology. Okay. First, I've been working on systems, right? Systems beat motivation. Okay. The theme for this whole thing, because the world is chaotic. And it's your fault, right? You know, it's our own fault for trying to do 1,000 things at one time. So let's do one thing at one time.
Get it together.
We're leaving the horse moon, right?
Horse moon.
And then we're going
Earth horse moon.
Okay, and then we're going into the what blank moon? What?
The Earth goat moon.
Okay. Now I want you to just give us a rep. First, I'm gonna cheers you. I'm gonna cheers you with beverage.
Cheers.
Boom.
Yeah. Happy new moon. Yeah.
Happy new moon. I first want to ask you, how was your Earth horse moon?
You know, I definitely. It was personally filled with lots of learning, because I went right after. I've just been constantly studying, you know, this material, because there's so much information that being left behind. And one of the key things when we're talking about the sixth moon or the goat moon, the first thing to really understand is that it's a transition moon. And when we talk about the moons, the first moon, second moon, blah, 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 what we're talking about from this tradition standpoint is what are called the lunar mandates, meaning that typically in the fourth moon, your behavior should be like this, right? So there is, and it goes moon by moon, but then there's another set of indicators that run alongside it that have to do with the chi nodes, what are called the chi nodes. And those are the 24 cycles that happen just end on end every year. So there's the 12 lunar cycles, lunar mandates. And then there's the chi nodes, usually associated more with agriculture, but they definitely have a pretty major effect, and they line up. They don't line up the same every year. So, for instance, when we're talking about the solstice, which we did last time, the summer solstice, that's one of the chi nodes, right? And it's a pretty big chi node, and that chi node is actually a pretty big pivot, as we talked about, in summer itself, because it's basically like the peak yang season. And what that means from a Chinese tradition standpoint is that now we turn and look toward decline, right? So the emphasis should be on okay, we reached the summit, we're in full go mode, prepare for descent, So that's the Chinese tradition's that's how they talk about that pivot, rather than like, how do we sustain this for as long as we can, which
Right.
would be the modern idea, right? So everybody's trying to do too much, but that's also kind of part of what's available in the Earth moon, or
Mhm.
sorry, in this Earth horse moon that we're still transiting through, is this kind of peak yang. But because it's an Earth horse, which is another indicator, it's usually fire. So adding Earth to it means there's a great capacity for overextension. This idea of becoming this spectrum between productive breakthrough, right? People having productive breakthroughs, and collapsing catharsis. Those two things kind of like weave together often, right?
Yeah.
So if people are just sort of hell bent on manifesting whatever the ideals make us stupid, right? So they keep us from paying attention to what our actual condition is. We're like kind of constantly trying to fix or go forward something, because our current condition as it is needs to be fixed, in some way. Yeah, Matt. Yeah.
Uh, now that I've left my bubble of people that know the context that you and I live in, and you and
Sure.
I have been for a very long time.
On it.
Yeah, yeah. And uh, so I want to drop the functional definition of stupid on people, because I really,
Oh, okay.
every time I say something like I can go into a room, I can make everyone turn towards me and attack me, and I love it because I'll walk right through your ass.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Just saying.
Yeah, and because I want that. But the idea is, whenever I say stupidity or stupid, it
Mm-hmm.
means you're consciously protecting your ignorance, right? So, and
Mm-hmm.
idealism and emotion are two of the easiest way to start protecting your own ignorance, right? It's like,
Okay. Yeah.
it's yeah, but you know what I mean? Yeah, but because
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
idealism is like, I want this to happen, or this person did this, and you're like, yeah, but they shouldn't have, you know what I mean, kind of thing. And it's like, but they did. And so what it is when something shines a light on your ignorance, but you protect that because you still want to keep believing something. That's the essence of
Okay.
idealism, emotion, and or even
Okay.
trauma is based on like something shines a light on something we never thought could happen or would happen, or it makes us feel
Right.
a certain way, and it makes
Right.
us bypass all of our consciousness and starts making us protect our ignorance.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it's like when I say stupid or whatever, I'm never calling anyone stupid. I'm just saying there are moments where no matter how many
yeah.
facts or red flags, or no matter what happens, we're going to ignore that. Trains
Yeah,
rolling.
I use that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use that phrase because it's catchy.
Yeah. No, that's what I mean. It triggers people, and it makes you emotional. And
Yeah,
guess what emotional people are?
right.
It's the cycle.
So the reason why I bring that forward in that way is because it is the modern assumption
Yeah.
that everybody's got ideals,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that everybody has ideals and everybody has beliefs.
Yep.
And both of those things are actually relatively modern inventions, so like modern cognitive inventions, they're fairly recent in the modern age. The belief systems and idealism are not that old, as far as humankind is considered. And so and they have a tendency to sort of close us off from our actual condition, from our actual sets of interconnections, as they are, because they're, what we perceive is something that we we find distasteful for some reason,
Right.
or like,
Right.
and so then you reframe whatever your experience is as a set of ideals that you're against because I have these ideals, right? So it becomes a setup for kind of conflict. Whereas this is this tradition that we share here is a contemplative tradition. It's meant to, it's not meant to provide answers or empowerment. It's basically helped to provide a forum, and a system, a way of paying attention to one's experience such that perhaps you get an understanding of where you're actually coming from.
Yeah.
Because what I'll say about the sixth moon is that I view this sixth moon as kind of the moment where everybody's kind of on board with Chinese astrology, especially coming out of the winter. Oh, okay, good. We get to, experiment with, how things should go. So there's this sort of like people are curious about Chinese astrology all through the spring and through the summer. But this point in summer is where people go, yeah, I don't know. They start backing away. I think they start backing away from Chinese astrology because I feel it in myself. And the main reason for that, and I'm from this culture, and I think the main reason for that is that in this particular point in time, in this particular sixth moon, conditions are such and the indicators are such, like with the other chi nodes and things that are coming along in that way, is that we've already reached solstice. So that was peak yang. And so it's basically about managing our descent rather than continuing to go forward in this kind of aggressive, consumptive way, right? The fifth moon, the horse moon, is everybody's chance to be a consumptive materialist. Like, what you see is what you get. I'm just like trying and efforting and being strenuous, and finding success and failure along the way. Lots of peaks and valleys, right? So when you get to the sixth moon, for sure this year, it's about like, how can you consolidate? How can you start chilling out? How can you start bringing things to conclusion? And so the idea is that we need to start integrating in all our efforting this experience of concluding things to actually, do you know how to stop? And that's the thing about late summer, I think, for anybody from modern cultures, they don't know how to stop.
Yeah.
Because they just don't, so when I come along and say, hey, you should probably start winding it down, the Tongshu would want you to start winding it down and start consolidating and sharing and doing deliberation, consensus building, because ultimately anything that's good comes from alliance. Anything that's good actually comes from our collective effort, right? So yang differentiates. Right? Yang Qi pushes against yin. Huge, vast potential of yin, still the dominant player all year long. But it's during this time when Yang Qi can actually push against all that potential, like the sun penetrating the earth and getting things to flower, right? And you got apricot over here and blueberries over there, so this is a kind of abundance of differentiation. So we get to experience this sense of differentiation, but as Yang Qi is starting to disperse, if we allow it to disperse, then what we're able to kind of tap into is this sort of collective environment, so we start dispersing with the differentiation, me, I need this, I need that, and like start moving into how we get things done. So there's an idea of like everybody has a role, everybody has a contribution, to more of a collective effort. And that's the whole nature of goat chi. And goat in this moon is a transition moon, it's earth. So it's basically taking us from summer to autumn. Matt.
I want everyone to realize that that's how Scott answered the question. Hey man, how was your horse moon?
Yeah. 30
so anyways,
minutes later.
so we're going into goat.
Yeah. So this is time for goat. Yeah.
Okay.
So this notion of reciprocity, right? We use reciprocity. We use a lot now. And from the Chinese tradition, it's not a moral term. Reciprocity just is a fact, of how things are, right? Okay. So when we have, we might call systems, something like vast and incomprehensible, all the ways in which we're interconnected and inform each other, what I might call like cross-pollination, right? How we cross-pollinate each other. And do you remember your aspirations for spring? How's it looking that? It's probably very different. And that had to do with the journey of the actual unfolding that has to do with this kind of cross-pollination aspect. So that's where we're at right now, and sort of supporting this interdependence, right, is basically how we continue with growth. It's not that growth shuts down, because Yang Qi has done such a good job to instigate. It's just that now the momentum is already rolling on its own. Things are killing it, like there's just abundance if you look around. But the fruiting and the ripening process doesn't need any more Yang Qi. So we don't keep pushing, because if we keep pushing, then it goes to rot. Then it tips the scales too fast. It grows too fast, it dies, right? Or it just goes right to seed. It goes right to the ground, right? Instead of giving us something that we can use. So it's like, cooking a nice dish. You don't have it on high the entire time, right? You need to back off, simmer sometimes, whatever. So the idea is that we have to back off and not push, but to coast, And so in this latter half of the horse moon going into goat, it's like, stop pushing and start collaborating. Stop pushing and start, building consensus. Stop pushing, and looking for differentiation, but like looking for how we work together, how we can come across with mutuality, right? So it's tough for us, because like, what are we celebrating right now? It's July 4th. This is like modern world of independence, like constant "don't tread on me." There's not a collective notion in that, other than "don't touch my stuff and I won't touch yours." So where
I
is
put out
that?
the freedom email today as one of the most written things about one of the things I write most about is freedom, and all the million ideas that people have of freedom. And being out here, I'm experiencing all these other people's like translations of what they think freedom is, and and a lot of times it doesn't have to do with, I always say, all boats make wake, so provide sanctuary. I mean, that's a really important thing. But I'm always goofing off on America on how litigious society. Litigious society will say, hey bro, it's a free country, don't hit me, I'll sue. You know what I mean, kind of thing. And and so there's a lot of I guess versions of freedom. So I ask everyone to I'm even going to put up on the blog, but like meditate or write or journal on what is your idea of freedom. Is it financial freedom? Is it resources? Is it community? Like, what is it? Is it to do whatever you want whenever you want, and are you considering the way that might affect others?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would look at freedom from the lenses of three different. This is a point that was brought to me by my dear friend Edward Spencer like years ago, on these three modes of growth. Right. So you have dependence, like where you can't, you get like somebody feeds you, like that's a part of our life. Independence, which is like I pay my own rent. In interdependence, which is this,
we need each other.
much more of a, and so I would look at freedom from those three lenses, where is your freedom in a place of dependence? Hey, I don't have to pay my food, so, and how much of these sorts of understandings of freedom are resource driven? Because it is this kind of like consolidation of resources, which is actually a pretty big notion, that we shouldn't, just kind of keep trying to push and get what we want on our own. At this point, if it hasn't happened and the momentum's not if you're not able to, guide it to its endpoint, then you need to start making adjustments. You need to start like, okay, this isn't maybe next year, but this is going to be good enough. And why don't we do this together? And then we can both use these resources that are going nowhere to do something, let's all pitch in on a bigger dinner and then we all get fed. It's like these kinds of compromises for, what you might call the greater good, or just the alliance, the nature of the alliances that we've been building for all through the spring and summer. So it's that you're manifesting something. That's kind of the point of the goat moon, is that you're manifesting something. And about 6 weeks from now, actually when this goes out, it'll be another month before the chi nodes for autumn start kicking in. So if we're not bringing things to conclusion, if all we're, after all the manifestation that we're constantly working on in summer, if we're still stuck with longing, right? I never made it, if we still want, then that's all you get, then you won't recognize the conclusions because they get stuck in this mode of, it's kind of, and the Chinese would call that ghostly, of feeling unfulfilled. And this is where yang gets stuck, is not allowed to disperse. It could cause health conditions. It's called stuck yang or sticky yang. That basically, this kind of wanting to push all the time creates a inflammatory environment where people get sick, from pushing too hard.
It's a lot of wanting to impose and wanting to help. I just want to help. I just wanted to help. You know what I mean? I've been seeing that a lot around here. Yeah, it's that's a thing. Like, they want to come in, they want to help, they want to make a difference. You want to do this. It's like,
right.
You want to go, but but you're still imposing. There's unsolicited advice. You should ask questions first.
Right. Yeah. So this is a sort of a collective experience, and we really do have to look carefully at not just what our experience is, but what is read the room, in terms of like where you are and who you're talking to, and in work, the advice from a Confucian standpoint in this system is to be deferential. And to relent, go with the easy path instead of like struggling to enact some ideal.
Okay, so what is your advice for this? So we're manifesting something.
There's still, if we work collaboratively, and we should really strongly be thinking about finding a way to bring things to conclusions. And even if it's like an ongoing project, it's not that you stop activity. In the modern world, it's very difficult, because we're like in these sort of perpetual machine-like modes of productivity. But we should find these sorts of places where we can make a note or make a mark of like, this is what was accomplished, and go with find those feelings of satisfaction, find those feelings of fulfillment. Because fulfillment isn't like wait until you get everything you want. That's not how life works. You have to find your places of fulfillment where you can, because when you do that, then you have an opportunity to build on that fulfillment, if you want to, or to turn the page on that endeavor. But if you're only in this kind of ghostly place of unfulfillment, then when it comes to autumn, you won't have anything to be grateful for.
Yeah.
You'll just be in the hamster wheel of this like kind of trapped in exertion. And it's really, going through the seasons, like I've been working on this, the essential sort of emotions of the year, starting in the spring, are inspiration, trust, going into like loyalty, enjoyment, of the summer, and then gratitude of the autumn, and contentment, right? So this isn't like, these aren't things, these are essential emotions that reflect our participation with the cycles of time. They're not something you get because you earn them. They're just there, so like they come by virtue of our participation. So it's really, if you can't find a place where you get to gratitude, then that's probably a physiological condition. There's stuck yang that's like bitter and looking for, so there's a lot of potential in the sixth moon for clenching, really, really bearing down. People really want to bear down, because there's a lot of unexpressed motives going on that's coming through, and those motives might not even be the property of the person who's expressing them. It could be more of a societal expectation that they're dealing with. So like, you gotta I don't know, you talk to somebody get that, express it, get it out. Don't carry that into the autumn or the winter. It would be very bad for you health-wise, for longevity. This could be a really powerful, 6 moon could be a really powerful time of harmony. But that's only if you're able to let go, of this kind of constant grind, that's why I say people are interested in Chinese astrology until you get to the 6th moon. I mean, because when the 6th moon, we're telling you should slow down. And like the modern age is like, oh no, I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
It's like people at 2 o'clock in the morning after they left the bar, like, where can we go next? Like, come on, man. Like, you got to see the writing on the wall. You should probably go home at 11, but now you want to go out again. Like, yeah. So, I mean, these sorts of sort of self-destructive habits, they're coming out now, because the people we have a really strong worship of yang qi, and we don't want it to go. We really want it to stay. Right.
What is the buried narrative for this? Who's made for this? Who's going to die for sure? Who's just going to burst into flames, and who's
could definitely explode? I think that the bottom line on this, not for the same reasons, but any chi character that's like defined by strength, tigers, oxen, dragons, horses, they're gonna probably want to back off, this moon, because there's going to be a lot of deliberation. There's going to be a lot of, hey, can I just talk to you for a minute? Like there's going to be a lot of emotions needing to be expressed and dialogued. There's going to be a lot of a need for consensus building. So, the very strong chi characters will, even monkeys, could get on the wrong side of, whatever person that's, confused in their own process. Right. So it's those ones should probably sit this one out, or at least be at a distance, kind of sort of observe from a distance, but not like don't go leading a sharing circle or anything.
Yeah.
They'd be annoyed pretty quickly for any of those sort of more action oriented, chi characters. But the ones that would probably do very well would be pigs. Because or even dogs, like they'll listen all day, and goats will be leading the circle. They're looking for this moment, to make sense of all the things that have happened. And we need that. We need somebody to point out what our priorities are as a society, right? Like why we do the things we do. We're constantly sending messages in our society about who we are. Like that, this moon and the 6th moon is really important. It's very obvious, like what the sort of messaging that's going out about like who we are and what we do, and what's everybody's role in it. And so roosters are going to be critiquing the hell out of that. Snakes will be in some way or another participating and observing how that goes down. And your rabbits, they're going to be advising. They could be thriving in this context too, but they're not going to be right out front. That's going to be too much exposure for them. And then the rats should definitely still chill out. It's still pretty intense out there. If they've got a little rut that they're in, and a little social grouping that comes with it, good. You should stay there. Like don't stick your head out.
What are you looking forward to in this one? Is there anything to look forward to? I have tons.
Oh yeah, I mean tons. I'm fortunately going to be able to personally leave town for a while and not try so hard. That's something that also is, when Yang is retiring, take a vacation. Go somewhere that like all the skills that you've developing, all the things you've been working so hard on. It's good to like go someplace where all of that is useless, so you can actually disconnect and like from the pushing, because it's very habitual, and we've been at it for several weeks, couple of months, few months. We've been working really hard. I mean, people may not feel like it because we're constantly looking around the corner, as a society, we're constantly looking around the corner. We don't know what fulfillment really feels like because all our imagery as a society is very ghostly. But if you stop back and think about it, everybody's working really hard, even if it's like internal process. It's a lot,
Yeah. Yeah.
so take a break, like go somewhere where, somebody's, you can have drinks and sit in the shade, and nobody cares about what you're doing.
Oh,
Nobody cares about the process.
I mean, we were talking about this healing, and I have a rule, like, yeah, there's some things you need to heal from, but then like sometimes and to heal from things you need to talk about them, and but then there are some times when something's happening, and respect the immune system. Like sometimes life will heal it, sometimes you need to talk about it, but then and if it doesn't heal and the immune system doesn't handle it, your spiritual immune system, your mental, physical, whatever immune system you have doesn't handle it, then talk about it or go see someone.
Yeah.
But then if it doesn't heal after that, then maybe it's because you won't stop talking about it. And like one of my favorite healing aspects has just been going to places where people see me, they respect me, they respect me, and they have boundaries around like my barrier to entry. So if you're going to be here, you have to come through with these things. And it allowed me to put down what was going on out there and just step up to the plate. And then by the end of it, I developed new tools for healing, for growth, like I said, for not for healing, but for improvement. You know what I mean? Because like, there is a difference, right? And and so that's I think a pretty beautiful thing was to go to places where they don't know me, and they're not really concerned about what happened back there. They just need me to pick that thing up and go over. You know what I mean? It's like they're not they don't care. I agreed. You know what I mean? It's like, let's do it. And that was really good for me.
Getting outside your own process can be the best thing, for turning the corner on whatever it is that you're going through.
What's the cliche? If you feel stuck in a hole, stop digging.
Right. Exactly. My favorite of Ming's is troubles never cease if you have a rope and a bucket.
Yeah.
You keep throwing it over there, keep getting it back. So sometimes you just got to stop throwing the bucket over, man, and just like go somewhere. If you obviously have the resources. I mean, I think part of what makes us talking about these traditions sometimes so dark is because we feel like everything's dark, and like there's historically these big transitions that you can trace astrologically that substantiate this kind of decline and difficulty, despair, that comes with like water rabbit chi that can easily drop into despair. So so there will be a lot of ways in which all those sort of emotional motives will be expressed this moon, depending on where you're at and depending on what kind of social grouping you're with. Like if you're over here with these people that may not, those sorts of emotional conditions might not even come up. And then if you're at Esalen, you'll be there for 4 weeks and talk about the same thing over and over again. So understand that like your process, your expression is a collective one. So it kind of depends on where you are. And if it's not working where you are, maybe change venue would be a good idea, and like you're saying, step out of it for a second to understand that, in this particular tradition, everything is self-resolving. It's just a matter of time, and like when it might happen. Yeah.
That reminds me. I mean, I just had a talk with someone yesterday that was doing all this stuff, and I have one exercise that I give everyone. I'm like, you're stuck in a script, you're stuck in a loop, you're stuck in your mind, and I have one exercise that I give everyone. And he was like, oh my God. And he just started like blowing up from his creative space. And no, I'm not going to say what the exercise is, because I think you guys should either join free content or join the premium, and because I don't care if you know this stuff, you got to go find it. And that's there's all of the great journeys in the world. You got to take it, and if someone hands it to you, it should be very you should not trust that person, right?
Right.
And
right.
but But yeah, they're just, and I go, you're stuck in a script. You're stuck in a loop. You're stuck in your head. So am I. And so I know I am. And so I just have one exercise that I do on a regular basis, at least 5 days a week. And it keeps me at least taking one moment of every day to not think around my own lens. So it just expands me this much every day. And
yeah, I don't think that ideals. I mean, I'll tell you, just based on my own particular practice with this tradition, I'll say that, okay, ideals are something you should avoid. But in reality, it's not to say to just like blanket rule, because that's fairly rigid, but it's just to say, just look at it. Look at it, really. Look, like, break down the ideal and look at it. Like, what does it do, for relating to our actual condition? And like, it's really good to just double check that, because your behavior can become pretty lopsided if you're just like constantly in a place of ideal. And I think that ideals in this kind of lopsided behavior are a natural response to the resistance of letting yang qi disperse, right? We don't want to give up quite yet, so there's a lot of justifications we make for not saying, okay, enough's enough. No, just one more, so there's this kind of
that's what we were saying about school. It's like you go through school and you're doing, but summer break is to stop doing school.
Right. I remember.
You know what I mean? And we're totally stoked on summer break. Like, you're in summer break, y'all. Like, you're in summer break.
Wow.
Like,
yeah.
like kick open the double doors and do that jump with you kick your heels up towards your butt off the fucking thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, and you freeze frame in the air.
Yeah.
And then you land, and then you grab some kind of beverage, and then you relax, and that's how it works.
You jump in the back seat of the convertible of your friend.
I mean, come on. Yeah.
Like, you have no plans.
No plans.
No plans.
Yeah.
No plans. Can you imagine? Like, living in a time where you had no plans? Like, that's late summer. That's what you should. You should really embrace that place of no plans, wherever you can, because it doesn't matter, the momentum's already established. It's happening, on its own. So yeah, don't be so desperate, like, you'll be okay.
All right. Sorry, all right, man. Well, I gotta run, and this is cool. I actually I know it sounds like I got plans. I don't really have plans.
No, I don't have any plans either.
But it is it's a beautiful day out here in Hawaii, and again, everyone get a reading from Scott and go on. I mean, I've launched so much. I just launched 5 new variations of the Swan.
I know.
set.
I saw it there. The Swan. That looks really great.
The Swan is.
So you're ready for a break.
Oh yeah. The Swan's up. I'm doing 2 more mobility sets. They're about ready. Then week after week, and then I'm doing this really cool short film right now. It's going off to a film festival. It's my first like film festival edit that I'm ever doing, and it's this lady came out from Stanford, and she was filming out in Kauai. It was a really cool synchronicity. I was working with this guy. He's doing all this like local, like indigenous land, like the kind of old law of the land kind of stuff, and trying to get some sovereignty back to Hawaii, starting with these salt areas out in Kauai. And right at that time, I meet with this other woman that's here filming those people, and she asked me to edit the film. And so now I'm able to like link those 2 people up, and I've learned a lot about salt and Hawaiian salt. That's pretty awesome. And so that's cool. Like, they just kind of seal this land, and the water washes up, and then they rinse it, and it's this really cool kind of thing. So I've been learning how much work goes into salt, and and I'm around, and it's really funny to me because I'm a cyclical kind of person, right? And I realize, like, when people are fighting for sovereignty and people are fighting for their land, I was like, hey guys, are you not seeing this metaphor? It's salt. Like, remember that other guy that walked to the salt? Like, that's some Gandhi shit right there, man. Like, walk to the salt. Like it's time for the Hawaiian salt march, And so I'm just like wondering, like, again, if we don't stop and see then it's hard to make a decision, because again, we're just digging in the same hole, right?
Correct.
And that's your script, that's
Yeah.
your loop. But it's like, no, pull back and start being creative, because like the warrior mind should be a creative, problem-solving mind that is thinking, you know, 5 moves ahead at least. And I'm
Yeah.
just seeing people trying to manipulate litigious structures. But I mean, that's the reason why Gandhi was so successful. He realized, like, you know, it wasn't going to be, you know, a battle fought in court. It's going to be like a moment of like, I'm just going to walk to it. It's right over there. You know, that'd be like, you know,
Yeah.
and so yeah, so I'm doing that.
Yeah,
Again,
there's massive potential. Like big social movements are a big part of the sixth moon. You know, that sort of goat energy, which is like definitely gathering together. You know,
Yeah.
like this feeling
that's
of
cool.
gathering together. So as much as there's a, you know, capacity for division, there's also just as much capacity for gathering together in this sort of collective stance, especially if there's a kind of associative thinking involved and an appeal to history. You know, so appeal to histories will be pretty strong, you know, in the goat moon, because it is this kind of legacy, this notion of a legacy, because this is the time in summer where typically in a sixth moon, we're asking about, okay, where are we going with this? What are we leaving behind with this activity? How do we make sense of all this activity? It's hard for us to understand that because we don't stop. So if we don't stop, we don't get an understanding of how it all fits. And we're just kind of, we just keep pressing the gas, and then harmony is never established. So, you know, we're efforting all the time instead of seeing, okay, well, these things go together and these things go together and this naturally happens. And then we can like make a broader sense of the action that has been done in summer. So we get to then store it. We get to make a conclusion. Conclusion, you know, isn't really just about like, hey, yang qi is waning, stop your activity. It's actually coalesce, you know, like bring it in, actually tell a story about like why you've done the things that you've done. And then that way it then, you know, all seasons connect to each other. So when we have something to harvest and we have a story to tell and we have a way of having gratitude for it and feeling that we take that into winter, that's the whole point. We're nourished in winter by what we're concluding now. And so if we don't conclude, then we don't have that nourishment and we have disease instead. And that's the point. That's why we stop.
All right, guys, stop everything.
Stop
Everything. But sign up on the mailing.
Just stop it.
Sign up for some free stuff, because there's self-care and everything. I just launched how I have my video on demand. I just did a whole free video on demand thing for everybody, because I realized I had like 30 free courses, and I realized, nah, just get them all right here. Yeah, so that's, yeah.
Right.
So if there's a couple things that I feel everyone should do, is do that. Get a reading from Scott, sign up everything, support people that you believe in, and other than that, stop everything.
Stop.
Go on break. Jump off.
Go on break. Yeah.
All right.
All right, brother.